Welcome everybody. You're joined here with Dave Ash. We're going to be doing discussion of mind over matter. Now, I met Dave a little while ago. I was fortunate enough to meet him earlier this year, and he talked about empowering people to do things beyond what they believe their limits are. And I won't spoil what that was because I'm sure Dave's going to explain that during this. But a big welcome to everybody, and I thank you for being here today, Dave. So, how you doing, Dave? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, very good. Very good. Busy, very busy and active, working on various things and keeping my mental health and my mind over matter, keep that on track as well. Because sometimes we forget about the good old self care and looking after ourselves, don't we?
That's
You
it,
know.
David. You're quite busy because you're constantly expanding your mental health company, isn't it? So you do kind of first aid, mental health training, and things like that.
Yeah, basically a little bit of a background. I spent over 30 years in health and social care, and that's been various areas. I've managed nursing homes, owned nursing homes, been training providers, organised training and training managers for different places. So the old stress levels at times have built up. So what I've done now is I spent the last 18 years self-employed as a freelance trainer. So I deliver training around mental health, first aid for body parts falling off and blood and cardiac arrests and things like that. So physical first aid. And I also do a lot around conflict management and violence and aggression and things as well. So I deliver a lot
Wow.
of training around the secure units and hospitals and various things.
I think that's another chat at another time, hearing about that conflict management. I think it's a fascinating subject. So what took you down this path, Dave, to sort of mind and helping people with theirs?
Basically, what happened to me was, as I said, I was busy driving around the place. Nationally, I travel all over the country delivering training. I travel from Liverpool to Birmingham in one day, deliver training, travel back again. Then I'd be in County Durham. So at the time, my daughters, they're 19 and 17 now, but going back, they were younger and things, and just busy being self-employed and trying to build the empire and everything else and make sure the family are happy. And then I actually realised at one stage, I had a bit of a life-altering sort of night one night, which I'll explain in a minute. But then I sort of quickly realised that really your family want you. They want you to be there. They don't mind. Maybe when they get to teenagers, they want to know how much money you've got in the bank. While they're little and that, and they're young, they want time. They want time. They want quality with you. But unfortunately, like a lot of us, when the kids are little, we're running around, we're trying to get things. We want to have pressures at Christmas. We want to make sure they've got everything that probably we didn't have when we were kids. So we pushing a lot. And the life altering defining moment was about 7 years ago in the April time. I was in Birmingham. I'd spent a week in Birmingham and that delivering training. And I was due to go up to County Durham for another 5 or 6 nights. So this was on the Tuesday, I was leaving Birmingham, but on the Thursday, I was due to be in County Durham. And I decided to call home to see the family for the night because I'd been out for like probably 12 nights on the run by the time it had all finished. So I went home, and then on a Wednesday night, I had a full-blown isolated seizure, tonic-clonic epileptic seizure, full-blown by 1:30 in the morning. There was a convulsion, the fit. I don't remember any of it. Luckily enough, my dear wife must have checked the life insurance, realised I'm not insured, done what she needed to do, and then I popped out the other side, so she kept me going. Went to hospital. I had all the brain scans. Now, normally with seizures, it's infections, it's withdrawal from alcohol, drugs, body temperature being too high, damage to the brain, be it infections, all of that. Went through all of that. And then the doctors went, it's stress,
Wow.
and gave me a shed load of medication. And with my background in mental health, I know what stress is. Me, I wasn't stressed. Me, no chance. I know what stress is. I was working hard. I was playing hard. We live on a caravan site as well, which is great, but it's not good when your friends come over for the weekend and they're on holiday because they don't live here. So then they party all weekend and go away. Then the next week, another group of friends turn up and they're partying all weekend. And I've got a bit of an addictive personality. So,
Yeah.
so once I start, so we were burning a candle at both ends and in the middle and everything else. And I had this seizure.
Wow. So it's like your body saying you got to slow down.
Yeah. And
That's what it is.
Yeah, and they put the brakes on me through. I got banned from driving for 6 months because it was a night seizure. If it was a day one, it'd have been 2 years. I'd have had another one within 2 years. They'd have gone down the epilepsy route, and I'd have been banned for another 2 years.
Wow.
So, on one hand, the doctor saying it's stress that caused the seizure, then taking me driving license off me, which was my main source of income.
Yeah. So talking about, look,
Yeah.
you're stressed. Let's take away your living.
Yeah,
See how you
basically.
get on.
Yeah, and then that was the case. Now, good enough, because of the relationships I've built up with a lot of my training clients and everybody, they understood. They were more concerned about me and my welfare and everything else. They pushed training back an hour. So instead of starting at 9, we'd start at 10. We'd finish a bit later. And at the time and that, my wife was working with me, not for me, working with me. So good enough, she was able to drop me off. But again, we'd get up in the morning, drop the kids off at school at 8 o'clock in the morning in preschool club, drive me to Manchester. I delivered a day's training in Manchester. In the meantime, Dawn come back, do what she needed to do, pick the kids up at 3:30, drive back to Manchester to pick me up. I think the eldest daughter spent 24 hours in the car one week.
Oh, wow.
Driving around.
So that stress really, it didn't go down then after that, did it, really?
No. And it's one of them really. It brought us a lot closer together. And the weird thing was, the other day I was chatting, my eldest daughter, we were just sitting there just chatting any old whatever and that. And she said to me, she said, "Do you know what? I never really remembered what you'd done or what you did." Because she'd have been 12 at the time. So she'd have had some recollection. She said, "I just knew you were working all the time." She said, "It's only after you had the seizure and we spent more time with everybody that I actually understand some of the things you get up to."
Wow. So it actually was a turning point in your life then.
Yeah.
And connected you to your family.
Yeah, yeah. And it was, at the time, I was going to the gym. I was fitter. I was faster. I'd said to me missus, and I'd said to her, "Do you know what? I was getting my six-pack back." Not really had one, but it was starting to develop.
Yeah.
And I felt great. But I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, travelling to be at St. Helens or Manchester, doing a 2-hour workout, and then going to work. And some of these courses were 5-day restraint courses I was teaching for high secure forensic mental health. So it was a good old physical battle as well at times.
I think people know that saying, something's got to give at some point, isn't it? If you keep on juggling too many things,
Yeah.
your body doesn't like it. And I think we had a discussion recently that we have different signals, different parts of our mind, different parts of our body can't communicate in words to us. So it tries to give us signals and more subtly. You can't get out of bed as easy. You're a bit more exhausted. You've got aches and pains. It's probably our body way of saying slow down. But if we don't listen to it, then something will pop.
After I had the seizure, I was offered all conventional stuff, medication and all that lot and everything else for stress. And personally, I didn't want to go down that route because I've worked with and looked after and supported people who have been on meds for many years. And I didn't want to, I took them in the beginning, but I wanted to find sort of what the reasons were. And that's when I did find hypnosis. So I went off for hypnotherapy, got therapy, and then the guy who actually was my therapist also taught it. So he said to us, why don't you come along? And he also fancied the idea of having the power to get somebody to run up and down, thinking of the chicken as well. So I also wanted that power, which, as we know now, is a little bit different. But at the time, it'd be great that I'd go to somebody, tell them to look into my eyes and whatever. But I also, so I'd looked at that and I seen how powerful the therapy was and hypnosis was. So I went into the hypnotherapy route, and then that then took me on to some of the other things that we're doing as well now.
Yeah. You take people now from a certain place to feel empowered to leap over any limiting beliefs that they have. So tell us about that and maybe a story or two about how you've managed that.
Yeah, okay then. So often, and I'm sure we've probably spoke or you've spoken other talks around self-limit and beliefs and things like that, but often than not, when we're growing up and things, or you're then, you're taught at the kids, "Oh, you haven't done that," or you'll sigh or you'll huff, or probably some of us went back to the days of being tortured by the teachers were putting a dunce hat on or getting slapped and sent out the classroom and all things like that. Everything just knocks us up. You probably spoke about the amygdala and the way the brain holds trauma and things like that over the time as well. But all these little things, every little tut, every little huff, every little, "Oh, why have you done that?" All these little things all go in and they build up and they build up and they build up. And the same way the stress levels do, also our self-confidence and our self-esteem can get knocked as well. And sometimes sometimes we can put the act on and come out on stage and keep it all going and everything else. But sometimes like we're really hurting inside and it's building up and it's finding ways of safely for people to break the way through these barriers and these self-limiting beliefs. And there's various exercises and things we can do, starting from quite low level. But then saying that, everybody goes on their own journey through different things.
Yeah.
And that's quite that's what I found since I've been delivering the seminars and the things.
Yeah.
Everybody goes on their own journey, which is powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's good to be part of.
Yeah, and you've been training of some techniques to help people get over those limiting beliefs. What are those techniques, Dave?
Some quite minor things, the likes of walking over 1,000-degree coals. So the likes of fire walking, snapping arrows with your throat, with your windpipe,
Yeah.
around the epiglottis area. Other stuff, the likes of walking on broken glass. Now, when people actually see it and they think, oh, the glass, it's not real. But then when they actually see it and they hear it, and it is real because I've built the glass walks and everything else. We'll build the fires and some of these things. And it's really humbling. It's massively humbling because when we do the events and that, sometimes we'll do the arrow break and the glass walk. There's loads of other things that we can have involved in that. But sometimes when I had one at my academy, at my place, we had a fire walk and it did involve the glass walk and the arrow break. And some of the people I knew, so there was like the accountants and things that come along and things like that. So some of the people I knew and things, I just had to make sure my books were good before he walked across the fire and everything, you see. And sometimes you think you know somebody and you think, you know what, I think they might be with that or whatever. And we do it open-minded. But everybody, be it the glass walk, everybody gets their own journey out to the glass walk or the fire walk or what's quite nice in that as well in a way. Sometimes you get people going, no, I'm not going to do the glass walk. You got no chance. And then as you've got 15 or 20 people,
Yeah,
as the people,
yeah.
and then you see this pair, and then they'll sneak, and then all of a sudden you turn around, they're stood there like that, and they just want to do it, which is good because there's no, come on, you must do it. It's all done open and that. And if people want to do it, great. If they don't want to do it, well, that's fine. Everybody's on their own journey.
I did mention I met you this year, didn't I, Dave? And that is one of the things that you brought to this conference that we was at. And so I did the glass walk, and those who are listening can see this little video I got on TikTok at Wolf Mindset 2. Go onto TikTok and see me walk on the glass. But like you said, if you look at that TikTok and go into the comments, this is why I'm bringing this up. If you go in the comments, the amount of people in the comments say, oh, great work walking on sugar glass. Yeah, well done walking on not real glass. And all that. So the amount of people that just don't believe it. But it is real glass. Trust me, when you're walking on it, you can't get sugar glass on it, I don't think. Anyway, it sounds like glass. It's breaking under your feet.
Yeah. And parts of the things, there's different ways of presenting them. The likes of the glass and the firewalks. Some of these very spiritual. We could present the firewalk very spiritual and have drums and everything else. The same with the glass walk. If organisations want like the big sort of rah-rah, big loud bouncy music, you can have the big loud bouncy. It depends upon the idea of the event and the tempo and the message or the journey that people want to go on. But what we some often say to people with the likes of the glass walk is every time you step on the glass, every time you feel a crunch or a snap or the glass break underneath your foot or a crack, imagine that's releasing something. That's releasing a bad memory, a thought, a self-limiting belief, and that's building the confidence up. And everybody, once they get to the end, be it through glass, through fire, through any of the other activities, it's massively humbling to be part of the journey. It really is.
So we've got a few other members of the Wolfpack. So Dave, you're a Wolfpack member, and we've got Wahida, Bev, and Anthony here. But I'm very aware that Wahida did the glass walk. So Wahida, didn't know if you wanted to pop on at some point. Just bring your camera on so I can say hello. That's it, Wahida. How did you find it when you did it? Because I remember how empowering it was for you, Wahida, and we'd all like cheering for you. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I wanted to cry, actually. I didn't. So first of all, I saw it. It was a surprise. We came back from coffee break and suddenly it was there. So he sprung it on us that we were going to do it. So I was in shock. But then I just saw him spreading it and I could see the glass and I thought, oh, this is scary because I could hear it and see it and gloves being worn, pushing the glass around. And then suddenly everyone started getting their socks off. And then everyone started doing it. I'm doing it. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to do it. So I just jumped up and did it. And I pushed myself, even though I was shaking and frightened and I had to hold on, but it was great and I loved it. It was real.
And you know what? That was a conscious decision that we made with the event organising that with Graham, not to let everybody know and not to tell everybody. And the idea behind that was sometimes we just need to make a decision and do it. We don't have time to contemplate. But if in the very beginning we would have said it, sometimes people would have just stewed over it. So sometimes with the events and that, we would not necessarily tell people what we're going to get up to or some other things. And it can be more of a journey and more inspiring because there's loads of different stuff we can do. And if people don't know, when it actually happens and that, they can have a better sort of, not a better, everyone has their own journey.
What
Yeah.
kind of experiences do you get? What kind of reactions do you sometimes get, Dave? Anything which is out of the ordinary for these kind of things? What have you seen?
Sometimes now with the emotions and things, people can have massive, they can be absolutely shattered at the end of it, like a massive sort of emotional release, because we don't know. I don't know anybody's background. I get people to sign away of it, just saying that something maybe happened and things like that. But often people don't. I had one guy in the past and that who he was assaulted, but when he was assaulted, it was by a makeshift knife. And he's like, I can't do the arrow bit because the knife was out in his throat. And I said, that's fine. I said, you don't have to do the arrow. I said, do whatever you want to do. Then a bit later on, he got up and he done it. And at the end of that, he was just in floods of tears and everything else, because this fear, this thing that he'd had due to the trauma that he'd had so many years ago, had held him back on all sorts of different things, stuff that he wanted to do. And when you look at it, some of it was like major stuff that had involved the family, which you wouldn't think something to do with that. But then they had a massive release on that.
Wow.
And again, that was big. We've had stuff where people, after, as they reflected a couple of days later, they've had something as well. They've had some stuff a little bit later on where they've also had reactions a little bit later on.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts then, Dave, from your experiences? Have you got any tips for people in relation to these blocks that they have, or anything that you would give to somebody who comes up to you and says, I've got a problem with this, I've got a problem with that? What would you say to them when it comes to mind over matter?
When it comes to the things over the mind over matter and that, again, there's different models, there's different things. And after I had the seizure, I first of all went through the lows and everything else about thinking, how am I going to cope? How am I going to pay these things? And to be honest with you, we had to clear out. Me and my wife and the family, we had to clear out. We had to clear out financially and we had to clear out emotionally. And we developed a thing called our EFIT syndrome. And I don't mean EFIT, E-F, two fingers, whatever, Duckett syndrome, yeah. But instead of saying duck, I'm going to say something else. And in that was a 2-bedroom house. When in that as well, we ended up going bankrupt. There was all sorts of things with all these external pressures to having to have a house, to not to go bankrupt, to have all of these things. It was just building on top of, wasn't it? So we developed that. And then ever since then, some of the techniques, because we can all manage with things as they're building up, as stress levels and as various other things. But at times we get chinks in our armor, don't we, when we're a bit run down, when we're tired, and things catch us and they do knock our confidence as well. But what I found in that is people picking sort of realistic, rather than dreams, because dreams aren't tangible, are they? The dreams sort of, where I get there. But with goals, pick a goal, put a date on it, and even put markers in the sand. So if I'm here now being 20-year-old Dave and I want to become a nurse, by the time I get to 35, 40, 50, I still want to become a nurse. So what we say to people now is, if you just imagine that you're a nurse now, look back at 20-year-old Dave and go, okay, then how did I get so? Shut your eyes and envision you being a nurse in 20 years' time. I'm there. How did I get there? Because I haven't got a clue. So turn around, look back and go, okay, then, well, how did I get here? I didn't have the qualifications I needed, so I had to go back to night school. I needed to get experience. I needed to earn money. All right, start working in a care home, we get the experience, get some of the qualifications. We never take a step backwards. That's a big thing for self-limiting beliefs. We always take a step sideways. Yeah, okay. But you still know where your goal is and you still know where you're heading. Yeah. You hear people say, oh, I'm just this, or I just done that. And if I hear somebody say I'm just a cleaner, or I'm just a carer, or I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If you weren't there, the big people up in the offices wouldn't be there neither. The consultants wouldn't be there for the carers and for the hospitals. So I sort of say to people, okay, then, so if this is where you want to be, sit down and really go into it. So if you're there, sit down. Imagine you're there. If you wanted to become a nurse or a paramedic or a computer consultant or whichever, wear the clothes, stand there, wear the uniform, see yourself passing out, feel proud of it. How did you get there? And then at least then, if you go back and go, need to go to night school, like what I said before. But then if you become pregnant, fine. You're only stepping sideways, but you still know where you're going. Because over the years, how many amazing, fantastic women have looked, and I'm picking the same women because they're hard for a guy to get pregnant, isn't it? And if you do get pregnant, come to me and we'll go to Jeremy Springer, but you can explain how the baby got there because I'm not. Okay. When we look at it, how many people leave the career because, be it a pregnancy or because of something else, or having to look after a loved one, and then 30 years down the line, I should have done that. why didn't I do that? My own family member the other week went, I said, why didn't you become a nurse? And she went, she's been working caring for years. And she went, oh, I'm too old now, I'm 52, 53.
Yeah.
I said, without getting political, I said, the way things are going, you're going to be 90 before you retire anyway. So you
Yeah.
might as well get the qualifications and enjoy the journey and explain to people life is a journey. Sometimes we get pulled down different paths, but if you then goals where it is, and that goal can change, it hasn't
Yeah.
got to be fixed in stone.
That's great, mate. And I like the technique of going forward and look backwards and see how you got there. And that's a really powerful thing because I bang the drum as well about goals. There's many different ways you can set goals. To be fair, the way you do it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you're stepping forward to the place that you want to be. There's a lot of people that I know have so much regrets in life, and there's that powerful Les Brown saying, one of my favourite saying from Les Brown, a motivational speaker, and he says, you're on your deathbed and you're lying there, and he says, when you're lying on your deathbed, what dreams, what things could you have achieved standing around your deathbed, looking at you, going, only you could have brought us to life. But now we must go with you. And you think, wow, that's a powerful saying. So don't wait till it's too late. Get cracking. Take that step. It doesn't matter whether you fall. Just fall. You're always going to fall forward. And then you pick yourself up and go for it. Have a plan.
And the big thing as well is it's consistency. It's like I've been listening to different audio books and that lately, and one of them is on consistency and things like that. And it's often if people say go to the gym, they'll go to the gym, but then they'll go 5 days a week for 2 or 3 weeks, not see much, completely burnt out. And then, but at least if they went once or twice a week over 6 months, and then they built it up and they built up the momentum and the consistency and things like that. Because sometimes if the goals, I started back to the gym probably around about 12 weeks ago now. But it took me till then because I knew my work patterns. I was all over the place. Now I know I'm working within an area where I could get back in. But I knew it wasn't worth me going because I'd beat myself up a little bit thinking I've only been twice this week. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I haven't eaten much. Because when you work away all the time, you don't eat healthy stuff all the time, do you? Whereas I knew that I was at the point where I could get all my lines in the sand. I could get where I needed to get to. And I knew I wanted to get. And I've dropped weight size. I'm not sure about my weight, but I've dropped at least 4 or 5 belt sizes.
Well done, mate. That's spot on. That is.
Yeah, man.
But what you just said, it made me think of something. I think consistency is key. Going to the gym twice a week for a year is better than 10 times in 1 month and never going again in a row. I actually think that's possibly where we fall down slightly in the therapy world. A therapy client will see a therapist, they will have the problem resolved quite quickly, but they won't keep up with consistency with their mindset. And then obviously things start to degrade like it would the gym. That's why I'm proud to be here with you guys here in the Wolfpack. It's a place where people can keep up with it. But I think it's consistency that's key, and having a top way of doing it, isn't it? Do you do some training or pre-talk?
We do, Bev. So we do a pre-talk on it. So the likes of it was going to be a fire walk or something like that. We'd normally go down, light the fire. And again, I'll get people to write like little messages and things, or messages to loved ones, and again, any self-limiting beliefs they want to break. They'll write them on little notes. They'll come along, put them in the woods. We'll light the wood. They'll spend a moment or two reflecting as the fire's building, and then they'll go back, or I'll go back with them to the seminar room, and then my colleagues, then the fire tenders, will then take over that while they're doing the magic with the fire and get the fire ready, and then we'll have a seminar. So I'll put it in the seminar. There might be other things, be it the glass walk, and there'll be other exercises that will be in there. I think we gave you a bit of notice when you've done the glass walk with myself and that, whenever we've done it. But we didn't give you much and that when Ian and Wahid had done it. But we did give a little bit of a talk beforehand.
We're halfway through it. We're halfway.
And it depends on.
I was going to say we were halfway across the glass. Going, what are we doing? Oh, there's glasses on my feet.
There's a reason why I put it on the red sheet. It's only when somebody's halfway across and they go, why is the sheet red? And I go, you don't see the blood as much. But sometimes my sense of humour is the wrong time to say that when somebody's halfway across. Sometimes you're better waiting, or you've got to pick your times. But no, Bev, we do a pre-talk. We have a chat with the persons. We have a chat with the group. Some of the things I'll do is I'll get the group to write down sort of what beliefs, where they are now and where they'd like to be in 6 months' time, or what they've got to do. And then I then make a promise that what I'll do is I'll post them letters out to them in 6 months' time to see where they're at. So all of this is part of the prep to get people in the right mindset and everything. So then, and then we'll then produce be it the glass or whatever it is we're doing within the activities. So it depends really upon what the event is.
It sounds fantastic. Any tips you'd give our listeners in how to go forward? I know you've given us some great things already, but any more golden nuggets you've got for the listeners about how to get for the mind?
One thing is to try and, what is it they say, the 5 people around you influence you the most and things. I made a point of getting the people around me. I've got some negative people around me anyway and things like that, which we all tend to carry them with us anyway. But what I did do is I made sure that I cut some of the social medias out and I surrounded myself with people that would help me grow and develop. With Ian's one of them, with Heather, and there's other people outside of the world that Ian and Heather might know, and I've surrounded myself with, who I can give to as well with support and everything else. But they also help me develop. But having loads of people around me going, you can't do that, or you're not going to do that, or how are you going to do that, or you'll never do that, all that just feeds in to the pool of self-limiting beliefs. And I developed many years ago, my young eldest daughter was drawing something when she was little. And I said, what are you doing, babe? And she scribbled it out and got a bit, and she went, I can do it. I said, what are you doing? And she went, I'm drawing something. I said, okay then. So I got her to sit there. I said, right, close your eyes and visualize what you want it to look like. She said, okay. And she then drew it. I said, okay, then right now draw a number 1 on it and put a date. Because what I wanted to see was the progression. I didn't want her to think she couldn't do it, which she was drawing some first time she drew it. So it wasn't going to look like Mickey Mouse, was it? It's going to look like something was probably been ran over or something rather than Mickey Mouse. So what she did do was she then redone it. And it was only a few months ago, before she turned 19, she was doing some drawing. And when I looked at the top of the paper, it had a date and it had a number on it. And I must have told her that, or explained it to her at least 14 years ago. And it was, wow, she did listen.
Wow.
Well, not she'll listen now. But again, when she done it, I've either gone, oh yeah, babe, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Because I wanted Jessica, my eldest, I wanted her to see the growth in her ability as she drew it and as she drew it. Because some of these things are new to us. We're never going to be, not going to be amazing at them first time and that sometimes. So it's building that up. But sometimes having markers so you can see. So the likes of when people go back to the gym, when people lose weight, my thing wasn't my body weight because I tried to build up and get muscle on. So for me, it was the fact that my trousers had dropped belt sizes. And I'd also was able to get me nemesis on. I had these shorts and I had these t-shirts that we went on holiday many years ago and that I couldn't fit on. And I'd even do the guys, you might know this, I'd do the button up so far and then I'd have to put my belt on because I couldn't get the top button shut. So I'd only be able to do my fly up so far. And my plan was that before we went to Turkey around about 6 weeks ago, I could get them up. And I got every single one of them off without having to leave the top button undone and everything. And that was my goal. Now, if I didn't get to it, it wouldn't have been the end of the world because I knew I was heading in the right direction because of the other markers with the likes of the belt going down the sizes and things. So it hasn't always got to be. It can be other things, how you feel within your clothing, how you feel about your own health, if you're not as tired, if you're sleeping better. Because sometimes we have markers, don't we, that society will say that we've got to hit, but sometimes you've got your own and you know which way.
Take everything in small steps.
Yeah. What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But if you're vegetarian or whatever, the big vegetarian thing or whatever, or however, but yeah, often than that, we try to take on too big a chunks, and if it's too big, we become overwhelmed, and then self-limiting belief comes in. Oh, I can't do it now. We can all do it. It's just pulling it off in little bits as you go.
It's going back to the training I used to do. I used to teach disabled children.
All right, okay.
And we used to say exactly that. With Portage, the ethos was baby steps. You can't expect a child with severe disabilities to just get up and walk.
Yeah.
Or to just get up and build a Lego house. You're going to learn to pick the brick up first.
Yeah.
Before they can do anything with it. So, yeah, it's going back to that.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
And that's it. And it's managing the expectations, isn't it? Maybe not of the children, but maybe of the loved ones or the family members. And it's
absolutely
because then if they're getting self-limiting beliefs that their child can't,
that's what we used to tell them.
Yeah. How many times have people, my background's learning disabilities and that, And how many times now have people probably been told going back years ago when we had really negative terms for Down
Yeah.
syndrome and for
Yeah.
everything else, your child will not develop.
And they
They're
won't
mentally,
talk.
they won't. Some of the terms on like mentally subnormal and
Yeah.
mentally retarded and things. They were all
Yeah.
medical terms that got used. So how much of a self-limiting belief is that putting on a parent, saying your child's never going to talk, they're never going
Yeah.
to find love, they're never going to get into a relationship. Now, 30 years on, we're popping up going, guess what?
Okay.
They can and they will, because we've got supported living and we've got all these other powerful things out there to
Yeah.
tell people.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dave. That's extremely insightful. It's going to help a lot of people, that talk. So I appreciate your time, mate.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Pleasure coming along. And if there's anybody in the pack or anybody else, if you want any advice, any help, or any tips, just reach out. You know, anything I can do to help you as well.
Fantastic. Cheers, Dave. And yeah, big thank you very much.
Okay. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Thanks a lot.